I texted the family group chat. My wedding's this Friday, would love to see you there. My dad replied, we're busy, don't expect us. My brother added, it's not always about you. I just wrote, got it. What they saw on Facebook that night made them drop everything. I, 32M, sent the text on a Monday morning. The family group chat that had been silent for months suddenly buzzed with activity, but not the kind I'd hoped for. My wedding was scheduled for Friday. I kept it quiet, kept it simple, exactly how my fiancé and I wanted it. We'd been planning for months, just the two of us, making decisions without the chaos that usually came with involving my family. But something in me, some stubborn thread of hope, made me reach out one last time. The response from Dad came within minutes. They were busy. A work conference he couldn't miss. Don't expect them. The words felt rehearsed, like he'd been preparing this excuse for years, just waiting for me to give him a reason to use it. My brother's message followed shortly after. It wasn't always about me. The irony almost made me laugh. Nothing had ever been about me in that family. Every achievement I'd earned was overshadowed by his struggles that demanded attention. Every milestone I reached was met with distracted congratulations before the conversation pivoted back to him. I typed back 2 words. Got it. Then I muted the chat and got to work. My fiancée found me in our home office an hour later, staring at my laptop screen with a focus she recognized. She asked what I was doing, and I told her I was making sure Friday would be unforgettable. She looked worried, asked if I was okay, and I promised her I was better than okay. For the first time in years, I was seeing things clearly. The Facebook post went live at 8 p.m. that night. I'd crafted it carefully, every word chosen with surgical precision. The photos were perfect too, pulled from the past 5 years of my life. Moments my family had missed because they were always too busy, always had something more important to attend to. The post began with a simple statement. I was getting married on Friday. I'd invited my family. They declined. And that was okay, because I wanted to take this moment to thank the people who had actually been there. Then came the photographs. The first image showed me at my college graduation. Not the ceremony itself, but the celebration after, where my fiancé's family had taken me out to dinner because mine hadn't bothered to show up. Dad had a work thing. My brother had an exam he was stressing about, even though it was 2 weeks away, and Mom stayed home to support him through his anxiety. The second photo was from when I'd bought my first house. I was standing in front of it, holding the keys, grinning like an idiot. My fiancé's parents stood on either side of me, her dad's arm around my shoulder. I called my family that day, excited to share the news. Dad said congratulations and hung up after 30 seconds. My brother never responded to the message at all. The third picture captured the moment I'd gotten my promotion, the one that tripled my salary and made me the youngest senior manager in my company's history. I was at a restaurant with my fiancé's entire extended family, all of them there to celebrate with me. My own family had known about the promotion. I told them. Dad said that was nice. Mom said she was proud, but had to go because my brother needed help with something. My brother never acknowledged it. I included a photo from every major moment they'd missed. My first marathon, where my fiancé's brother had run the last mile with me when I was cramping up. The charity event I'd organized that raised over $50,000, where her cousins had volunteered their entire weekend. The time I'd been hospitalized with pneumonia and her parents had taken turns staying with me because mine were dealing with my brother's latest crisis, a breakup that required their full attention. The caption under each photo was simple. It just stated the facts. What the event was, who was there, who wasn't. The final paragraph of the post was the part I'd spent the most time on. I wrote that I'd spent years trying to earn my family's attention, thinking if I just achieved enough, accomplished enough, became successful enough, they'd finally see me. But I'd realized something recently. I didn't need them to see me. I had people who already did. People who showed up without being begged. People who celebrated my wins and supported me through losses. People who proved that family wasn't about blood, it was about who chose to be there. I wrote that my wedding would be small and intimate, filled with the people who'd earned their place in my life. And I thank my biological family for one thing, for teaching me exactly what kind of family member I never wanted to be. Then I tagged my fiancé's parents, her siblings, her cousins, her grandparents. Every single person who'd become my real family over the years. I hit post and closed my laptop. My fiancée wrapped her arms around me from behind, rested her chin on my shoulder, and asked if I was sure. I told her I'd never been more certain of anything. She kissed my cheek and said she was proud of me. We went to bed early that night. We had final preparations to handle in the morning, last-minute confirmations with the venue, the caterer, the photographer. Sleep came easier than it had in weeks. My phone started ringing at 6 a.m. I ignored it. It rang again and again. By 7, I had 43 missed calls and over 100 text messages. I didn't read any of them. I silenced my phone completely and focused on the day ahead. The venue looked perfect. We'd chosen a small garden space, intimate and beautiful, with room for exactly 50 guests. Every chair would be filled with someone who mattered, someone who'd proven their place in our lives. My phone stayed silent in my pocket through all the preparations. My fiancé asked once if I wanted to check it, and I said no. Whatever was happening in that digital space didn't matter anymore. This day was about us and the people who actually cared. By Thursday afternoon, I'd received over 300 notifications. The post had been shared 47 times. Comments kept pouring in from people I'd gone to school with, colleagues from work, friends I hadn't spoken to in years. Most were supportive, sharing their own stories of family dysfunction and chosen families. Some were from people who knew my family, people who'd witnessed the dynamic for years and were glad I'd finally spoken up. That evening, my brother showed up at my house. I answered the door to find him standing there, looking like he hadn't slept. He started talking immediately, saying I needed to take down the post, that I was embarrassing the family, that people were calling mom crying, that dad was getting messages from colleagues who'd seen it, that I was ruining everything over a stupid wedding they couldn't attend. I asked him if he was done. He blinked, caught off guard, and demanded to know what my problem was. I told him I didn't have a problem anymore. That was the point. For years, I'd carried the weight of wanting their approval, their attention, their presence. But I was done. I'd laid it down. I wasn't angry, wasn't hurt, wasn't anything. I was just finished. He said I was being dramatic. That family was family, and I couldn't just throw that away. I asked him when he'd last acted like family. He didn't have an answer. I told him the wedding was tomorrow at 3 p.m., gave him the address, and said he was welcome to come if he wanted to. But if he showed up, it would be to celebrate with us, not to lecture me about family loyalty he'd never demonstrated. He left without another word. Mom called an hour later. I answered, which surprised both of us. She was crying, asking how I could do this to her, how I could publicly humiliate them like this, how I could be so cruel. I let her finish. Then I asked her a question. Could she name the last 5 important things that had happened in my life? She went quiet, started to stammer something about my job, maybe, or the house. She wasn't sure. She asked why I was doing this. I told her I'd named 5 important things from my brother's life without even trying. His breakup last year, his job interview 2 months ago, his car accident in the spring, his dental surgery in January, the girl he'd been dating who he was nervous about introducing to the family. I asked her again, 5 things about me. Anything. She started crying harder. Said this wasn't fair, that I was being manipulative. I told her the wedding was at 3 p.m. tomorrow. She could come or not. Her choice. But I was done begging for scraps of attention from people who only remembered I existed when I did something they didn't like. I hung up before she could respond. Dad didn't call. He never did. Communication had always been Mom's job. He just went along with whatever the family consensus was. And the consensus had always been that my brother needed more, deserved more, required more. Friday morning arrived with clear skies and perfect weather. My phone had been off since Thursday night. I got ready in peaceful silence, my fiancée moving through the house with quiet excitement. Her parents arrived early to help with final touches. Her brother helped me with my tie and told me he was honored to stand beside me. The ceremony was at 3 p.m. By 2:30, all our guests had arrived. The garden was full of laughter and warmth. People who'd traveled from different states to be there. People who'd rearranged their schedules and their lives to celebrate with us. At 2:45, a car pulled up. My family got out. All 3 of them. Dad in a suit that looked hastily pressed. Mom in a dress I'd seen her wear to my brother's college graduation. My brother in slacks and a button-down, no tie. They stood at the entrance to the garden, uncertain. I was already in position, waiting for the ceremony to start. My fiancé's father, who was walking her down the aisle, noticed them and looked at me with a question in his eyes. I nodded. Let them in. They found seats in the back row. Didn't try to come up to me. Didn't make a scene. Just sat down quietly and waited. The ceremony was perfect. My fiancée was radiant. The vows we'd written made people laugh and cry in equal measure. When we kissed, the applause was thunderous, and I felt nothing but pure joy. The reception flowed seamlessly into the ceremony. Dinner was served. Toasts were made. Her father spoke about how I'd become the son he'd always hoped for. Her mother talked about how grateful she was that her daughter had found someone who treated her like she hung the moon. Her brother told embarrassing stories that had everyone crying with laughter. My family sat at their table in the back, quiet, watching. I didn't go to them, didn't acknowledge them beyond a polite nod when our eyes met across the room. They'd come, and that was their choice. But this day wasn't about making them comfortable or managing their feelings. As the evening wound down, Dad approached me. He said they needed to talk, that we should step outside. I told him this wasn't the time. He insisted, said they'd driven 4 hours to be here. The least I could do was give them 5 minutes. I looked at my wife, my actual wife now, dancing with her grandmother. Looked at the people surrounding us. All the love in that room that had nothing to do with biology and everything to do with choice. I told Dad okay. 5 minutes. We stepped out into the garden, away from the reception. Mom and my brother followed. They formed a small semicircle in front of me, and I waited. Dad started by saying the post was out of line, that I'd hurt them deeply, that family business should stay private. I asked if he was finished. He looked surprised but nodded. I told them I'd spent 32 years being the low-priority child, the one who didn't need as much attention because I was fine, I was capable, I could handle things on my own. And I had. I'd built an entire life without them, surrounded myself with people who actually showed up. The post wasn't meant to hurt them. It was meant to tell the truth. And if the truth hurt, maybe they should consider why. Mom said I didn't understand how hard it had been, that my brother needed more support, that I'd always been so independent. I told her independence wasn't a personality trait I was born with. It was a survival skill I'd developed because depending on them had never worked out for me. My brother finally spoke up, said I was holding grudges over stupid stuff, that they'd had their reasons for missing things. I asked him what my fiancée's name was. He stared at me. I asked again. We'd been together for 6 years. What was her name? He couldn't answer. I told them they'd met her twice in 6 years. Twice. And both times, they'd spent the entire visit talking about my brother's life, his problems, his needs. She'd been a ghost in my family, just like I'd been. Dad said I was being unfair, that we could work through this. That family forgave. I told them I did forgive them. I forgave them for not being the parents I needed. I forgave them for not being the family I deserved. But forgiveness didn't mean pretending none of it happened. It didn't mean giving them unlimited chances to keep disappointing me. I said they were welcome in my life going forward, but things would be different. I wouldn't be reaching out to beg for their time. I wouldn't be sharing my achievements hoping for validation. I wouldn't be organizing my life around their availability. If they wanted a relationship with me, they could put in the effort for once. They could show up without being guilted into it. They could remember important details. They could act like they actually cared. Mom asked what I wanted from them. I told her nothing. I didn't want anything from them anymore. That was the whole point. I'd built a life full of people who gave freely. I didn't need to extract basic decency from people who should have offered it willingly. They stood there in silence. I turned to go back inside, back to my wife and the people who'd earned the right to celebrate with us. Dad called out behind me, asked if I really meant all of this. I stopped, looked back, told him I'd meant it when I invited them to the wedding. I'd meant it when I shared my truth online. I'd meant it when I said they were welcome, but things would be different. I meant all of it. Then I walked back inside to my wife, to the life I'd chosen, to the family I'd found. They left shortly after. I watched them go from the window, saw them get into their car and drive away. Felt nothing but relief. The wedding ended late into the night. My wife and I said goodbye to our guests, accepted their congratulations and their love, and finally found ourselves alone in the garden as staff cleaned up around us. She asked if I was okay. I pulled her close and told her I was better than okay. I was free. 3 weeks later, Mom started texting regularly. Just small things at first. How was I doing? What was work like? Did I want to get coffee sometime? I responded politely, but didn't rush to accommodate her. When we did meet for coffee, it was on my schedule, at a place near my office, for an hour I could spare. Dad sent an email apologizing. It was stiff and uncomfortable, clearly something he'd struggled to write. But it was there. An acknowledgement. A start. My brother didn't reach out at all. The Facebook post stayed up. I never deleted it. Occasionally, Someone new would find it and comment, sharing their own story. It became a strange kind of monument to chosen families and boundaries. My wife and I settled into married life. Her family continued to include me in everything, continued to show up in ways my biological family never had. And slowly, carefully, my parents started trying. Started asking questions. Started remembering details. Started showing up. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. And that was enough.